My name is Emmanuel Peterson. I am head of marketing at MiniChess and MindCo and the Trust Foundation that's hosting the 21st Century webinars that you are on at the moment. I just have to say we are recording the event. So I know tomorrow is a public holiday in South Africa, so there's some people that really wanted to be on tonight, and they apologized and they requested if we can please make the recording available, because it is such an important topic. Are you raising an entrepreneur? Now, before we start, and before I'm going to introduce you to Marissa, who's the CEO and basically the queen of MiniChess, MindCo and the Trust Foundation, and the person that's making all of this possible, I just want to share some technical facts on the platform that we are using tonight. It's called the MC platform, which is the MindCo or MiniChess platform. It's been specifically built for the companies. As you can see on your right-hand side of your screen, there is a chessboard with chess pieces. What makes this whole platform unique is that it is completely user-friendly. You can physically, without being in front of each other, you can have live interaction. And through the MiniChess and MindCo program, which you guys will hear towards the end of tonight, you'll hear a bit more about that. But you can have live play. So things like COVID, where you can't be in the same room together, and the same if you across countries. Karien, who's our speaker for tonight, is in New Zealand. It's very early for her, and she's going to be presenting tonight, but it's a different country.
You are now muted.
And that's what makes this platform so unique. Unlike Zoom or even Teams, where your live interaction is quite limited, on this platform you can have live play. You can interact in real time with each other, and that's what's so phenomenal. But before we start, I want you to look at your blue board, or your dark blue board in front of you. At the bottom, you'll see three buttons. The one on the left, if you hover over it, you'll see it says mute. So if you mute on that, if you click on that, you can either unmute or mute your microphone. What I always say, it's basic etiquette on online events to keep your microphone muted while the guest speaker is speaking, and then there's going to be ample time for questions and answers and for interaction after the presentation, and then you're going to be able to unmute there. The middle one, you can see it says leave audio. So if for some reason you need to leave audio, you can. Or on the right-hand side, stop sharing webcam. So if you want to switch off your webcam to save data, for instance, then you can switch it off there. Now, what's very important is in front of you, you're going to see a whiteboard that says, are you raising an entrepreneur? If you hover right above it, you'll see two little lines with two arrows pointing up and down. By clicking on that and dragging down, you can make your whiteboard smaller, which means your guests, the videos go bigger, or you can drag it up and your whiteboard, your presentation board gets bigger. Now, on the right-hand side of this, you'll see a little blue box with a line through. That, if you click on it, can hide your presentation, which means you only see your guests. Or right at the bottom then, on the right-hand bottom corner, you'll see a button that says Restore Presentation. If you click on that, your presentation is back. Now, on this whiteboard, at the bottom right corner, you'll see there's four little arrows pointing towards the corners. And that button, if you click on it, it'll make your presentation full screen. So while Karien's going to be presenting tonight, if you want to follow just the presentation, you can full screen, or you can minimize it, depending. I like when I'm on a webinar, I like to actually see how the presenter's talking and see the faces and see how they interact. So for me, I like to keep it small, but that's your own personal preference. Now, on the left-hand side, at the top, you'll see messages and public chat. So if you click on public chat, you can actually, if you click on it, you'll see portion goes open, a white little box goes open where you can have a public chat. Now, what I say is, while the presentation is going on, if you've got any questions or if you want to find out anything, you can go and you can chat on the public chat. And towards the end of the night, either myself or Marissa, if I'm on, because my internet's quite bad, but if someone will go onto that public chat and they will then answer any of your questions. But we want to keep it live and interactive, so feel free at the end of the presentation to unmute, and then we can have a nice discussion. All right. Okay, with no further ado, I'm going to introduce you to the mastermind, the brainchild behind this presentation, as well as the 21st Century webinars, which we have a webinar every second Thursday. And you'll notice if you go onto our LinkedIn or our Facebook, we always advertise what the topics are. Now, tonight is a very relevant and very important topic called, Are You Raising an Entrepreneur? And I think if you are a parent in the 21st century living, if you want to call it that, or even if you're a teacher, a principal, a tutor, a trainer, it's very important to know who you're dealing with when you raise kids. And I'm not going to talk about it because I'm not the expert, but the person and the people that will talk about it, and Marissa will introduce you to our speaker tonight, is Marissa. Marissa has been in teaching as a whole, as a chess coach, as a teacher. She's worked with some very, very important people. She's built this platform, MiniChess and MindCo. And she's also, I just have to boast a little bit, she's up for Woman of Stature Entrepreneur of the Year in education, and I'm very, very excited. So I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna introduce you to Marissa, and then she can take it further. Welcome, and I hope you're gonna enjoy it tonight. Marissa.
You're now unmuted.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Thank you for everyone who made time to be here tonight. I know that, it's the beginning of a long weekend in South Africa. The roads are packed with people on their way to the holiday. The schools have also closed. Many schools have closed today. And Karien is already in tomorrow. So Karien, being in New Zealand, is already in Friday. So thank you, Karien, for getting up very early to talk to us on this very, very important subject of, are you raising an entrepreneur? This is such an important subject. We are recording it. We'll have it available for people who want to look after it, who's now on the road, traveling at the moment, because this is a topic that literally every 21st century parent need to attend to. So with no further ado, I'm just honored to present Karien with you. Karien, you take the floor. I'm assisting you. I'm co-presenting with you, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey up to here, and about our topic. Thank you, Karien.
Marissa, if I can just ask you to watch the public chat for me, because I can get... and let me know if there's something important I need to answer, because I'm going to be focused and I might miss a question or two. So yes, I am the Karien Snyman that Emmanuel and Marissa is talking about. And I am so honored to be with you tonight, all the way from New Zealand, just after 4:30 in the morning. And so let's start. If you look at this slide, this is me. I've started quite a few small businesses over the years. Some of them I've sold for a nice profit, and some of them I've given away for free. It all depends. If the right person doesn't want to buy it and doesn't share my passion for this little business I built up, then I would just give it for free to the right person, because I'm passionate about what I believe in and what I do. And all my businesses are still existing. They're still going strong even without me, my ex-businesses. So if you look at this slide, is there anybody that would like to guess what the theme is? If you see me in different projects on this slide, who wants to take a guess what the theme is of my life?
You're an entrepreneur.
And something else, if you look at the photos,
Children.
children.
You're a teacher.
Yes.
You love kids.
I
You
love
have a
kids,
passion for children, yeah.
and I have a great passion for young minds, and to empower them and to, instill them some future skills. Also, I'm passionate about little children, to be happy and to enjoy life. I did start a business with my friend when I had to sell my music and movement franchise in Pretoria. When I just moved to Hartbeespoort, I did start a business selling secondhand earth moving machines. And after only 4 months, I almost fell into a very deep depression, because it's not my passion to sell yellow machines. I just, started it up to, make some money. And my husband, after 4 months, said to me, please, I've got 15,000 Rand. I saved it for a nice holiday for us, but please take this money and just start something with children, because you're not going to make it. So we'll talk about this later in the presentation. Stick to your passions, and then it will always be easy for you to get up in the morning and go do what you do. So as a teacher, I want every single child in front of me to have entrepreneurial skills. We don't know what their futures are going to look like. So for me, I would just like to equip them to do absolutely anything that they put their minds to. As a mom, I feel the same way about my boys. I want them to be able to do absolutely anything. As an entrepreneur myself, I know it's very hard work, but I also know that nothing is more rewarding than taking an idea and making it real. Taking a passion and turning it into a project. So why does the world need entrepreneurs now more than ever? The world is rapidly evolving. We've been talking about this for the past couple of years, but now with COVID, it just hit home even more. Our life used to be easy. You go to school, you pass your exams, you go study something, you get a job, and the rest will just flow from there. But it's not a reality anymore. We all know that. Chances are now that your child won't get a job. He will create one. Small businesses create 55% of jobs in South Africa. And some of the most important innovations in the last century came about because of entrepreneurs. So let's look at a few reasons why it's so important for the world to have entrepreneurs. There's many more, but we're just going to look at a few. Entrepreneurial ventures makes economies prosper. We all know that. Entrepreneurs are the ones that take risks and they take action. They solve problems. In our MindCo program, we actually spend some time on the VUCA world with all the volatile projects going on. We need entrepreneurs to get the answers for a lot of these volatile projects going on in the world. Entrepreneurs create new markets with their innovations and ideas, and entrepreneurs create jobs. The world also desperately needs social enterprise entrepreneurs. With 150 million homeless people, millions of people fighting poverty and starvation, and we have our work cut out for us. Robot automation will take away 100 million jobs in 2030. If you look at this slide, typical jobs that's already taken away by robots and machines. So we have to change our mindset. Things are going to change rapidly in the next couple of years. So this might sound very dim and depressing, but I actually have great, wonderful news tonight. our children already have the answers of so many of our problems, of our, so many of the problems of our crazy world. Our children already have passions and dreams and visions. They were born with it. So instead of crushing those dreams and passions and creativity, let's listen to our future leaders and embrace their dreams and equip them and empower them to make those dreams come true. I feel very, very strongly about this. Young children think everything is in their reach, but somehow during their schooling years that changes. And we as parents can change that for them. So I just want to plant a seed tonight. And I just want you to have an open mind about the 21st century. And if you were still in denial, I would like you to, after tonight, think about the future of your child. The skills that we will be discussing is obviously important to be a successful entrepreneur, but these skills are important whether you are going to be the next Elon Musk, whether you're going to be the next patent lawyer or the next Bruce Springsteen. And the sad thing is that schools are not teaching these skills at all. So let's look at the first one. Often entrepreneurs have great ideas, but they lack confidence. And we have to help our children to be more confident. How do we do that? I strongly believe that if you listen to your child, you're not only teaching your child to be a good listener, which is an amazing entrepreneurial skill to have, to be a good listener, but if you listen to your child, you will figure out what your child's passions are. And the secret here is that if they do what they love, let me just get the next slide, they will develop drive, they will develop determination, they will be focused, and they will develop grit. And all these are essential tools for becoming a successful entrepreneur. The better they become, the more confidence they get, and the more risks they will take. When something clicks in them, focus all your energy on supporting them and encouraging them. And you will see how lazy and distracted kids become laser focused and hardworking. I just want to press the wrong button. Yeah. We go. If you keep doing something for your child that they should be able to do for themselves, you are unknowingly teaching them that they are not good enough. Empower them to do things for themselves, and that will build confidence. Helicopter style parenting is not very beneficial to teach confidence. Let's say to our kids, I know you can do it. What do you need from me to help? If I look at my 8-year-old, very lazy to do schoolwork, passionate, crazy passionate about sports. And he will do, if he watches rugby, he will change into rugby clothes and he will have a rugby ball and he will start playing rugby behind the couch. If he watches cricket, he will get his cricket bat and ball and he will start playing cricket behind the couch as he's watching this sports. So I'm not going to kill his spirit by forcing him to do things that he doesn't enjoy, enrolling him in French lessons and things like that. I'm going to listen to his passions and use sports to teach him all sorts of skills that he needs to be an entrepreneur one day, or just to have, future skills. If you look at this slide, very funny one. As a teacher, previously an owner of a school, I've seen many 5-year-olds where the mom comes into the classroom and gets the backpack and carry it for them to the car, little things like that, or 5-year-olds being carried on the hip. Young children want to grow up and they want to be independent, and we have to let them. So Let's help them to develop independence and to become confident. A next theme that I feel also very strongly about, it's very important for getting them ready for the 21st century, is to be adaptable. We all know about IQ and we all know about EQ, but what are we doing to develop IQ in our children, the adaptability quotient? If you look at the definition, it's the ability to pivot and flourish in an environment of fast and frequent change. We know with COVID, environments are now changing fast and frequently, and it's not going to go away. It's just going to get worse. The IQ, your IQ is the minimum that you need to get a job in the 21st century, but you're going to need IQ to be successful over time. Restaurants in the COVID time, if you could adapt and change, could survive. MiniChess was able to adapt. We could go online, and MiniChess survived. So it's very important to teach our kids to be adaptable for survival. Hi, Salamine.
Hello.
Welcome.
Sorry, I'm a bit late.
No worries. So let's look at a few ways how we can teach our kids adaptability. Regularly changing your family routine teaches kids to adapt. Be open to last-minute bookings and plans. When things are not going as planned, be the example of adaptability. That's the hard one. But children are not only listening to what you're saying, they are looking at what you're doing, they are watching you. If you cannot adapt to change in your home, and if you cannot prevent yourself from being hysterical and negative when things change, how will your kids learn to be adaptable? So you need to look at yourself first, and you have to be a better example of your behavior when things don't go as planned at home. A very good family activity to teach adaptability is camping. Very, very strongly is traveling with your children. Surviving a multi-hour international flight, waiting in line at amusement parks, all these things will actually teach patience. Traveling also changes one's perspective, makes you more open-minded and teach you compassion. If you travel together as a family, it's always all these things actually. Sorry, I just want to see if I can put my camera back on. All these things help you as a family to broaden your horizons, to change your perspective on different cultures, on different ways of living, and it also helps you to be adaptable. I'm going to ask Marisa to play a little game on the small chessboard with us. We can all play together. And I'm going to put up a slide with a couple of skills. And I want you, as soon as you see something in the game that reminds you of that skill, or where you see that skill is being developed, you can unmute yourself and tell us. Just a quick game we're going to play. So I'm going to ask Marisa to do that for us. And as she packs the board and just start the game, I am just going to pop out of the platform and come back in and see if I can get my camera to work again. So Marisa, if you can do that for us.
Sorry, Karien.
Yes.
Karien, your camera is working.
Yeah, we
oh.
can.
It went
You are now
blank
unmuted.
for a couple of seconds, but you actually came back on.
Yeah.
So I can
Okay,
see
now
clearly.
that's great.
We
Okay,
can
that's
see you
wonderful.
clearly.
Sorry for interrupting, but I thought before you go
No,
off the platform.
No, thank you
at least
very
you are there.
much. Okay, so I'm going to put up this slide. Marisa is going to pack the board, and then let's see who can spot these skills first as Marisa goes through the game with us.
Thank you,
Thanks, Marisa.
Karien. So I'm going to introduce you to a mini game. So the name MiniChess, the program MiniChess, actually comes from the concept of using purpose-designed mini games to practice certain skills and think skills in our children through play. So I'm going to introduce you to a very short game. It only consists 2 pieces. We're only going to use 2 pieces playing this game on the chessboard. So I'm going to ask you to take your attention to the chessboard. I'm going to introduce to you 2 pieces. So the piece I've put on the chessboard here is actually a king. It's a black king. And it's got that plus on its crown. So it's royalty. And I just want to share with you how the king can move. Just for us, maybe, if we don't know, it's not a complex game. It's a very simple game to learn and very quickly. So I'm just going to ask 2 minutes of your time to teach the game. So I've put the blue, that royal blue squares around the king, and those squares indicate the squares where the king can move to. So this king can, when it's his turn to move, he can move to any one of these 8 squares, but all those squares are just 1 square away. So the king is a slow mover. It can move in any direction, up and down, right and left, diagonals and files and ranks, anywhere it wants to go, but only 1 square at a time. So this is actually the king's reach. The other piece I'm going to introduce you to is actually the pawn. So this white pawn here is the smallest of all the pieces. And the pawns in the chess team are the foot soldiers of the team. They start, is their starting position to start, not at the back rank, but on the 7th rank. That's where they start the game. And it's also a very slow mover. So this pawn, I'm going to put the green squares where it can move to. It can really only move 1 square at a time, like the king. Only 1 square at a time, but it can only move forward. Not sideways, not diagonals, not backwards, only forward. So this game we're going to look at, the white pawn wants to reach the orange square. It's a race. It's a race between the pawn and the king. Who can reach the orange square? But I just want to finish the pawn's moves because the pawn has got some special moves. A pawn, and if it's in its beginning starting position here, can either make a single move or it can make a double move. It's the only chess piece in the team that can actually make a double move. And the pawn can only do it in its starting position. So this pawn, where it's standing here, can move 1 move forward, 1 square forward, or it can go 2 squares forward if it's his first move. After that, it can only go 1 square at a time. The other thing that's special about the pawn is although it moves forward, straight ahead, it captures diagonally forward 1 square. So this is the example. If there's a piece standing on the diagonal square, it will be possible for the pawn to capture diagonally. And from there, it can only move forward there again. And the attack squares are diagonally 1 square forward, and the move is 1 square forward. Okay, so these are the possibilities of the 2 pieces that we are working with. So I just wanted to share this with you. I'm just going to put this back so we're all looking at the same position. These 2 pieces, these are the only squares that they impact on the board. All right, as it's a race, I'm going to ask you, who wants to suggest, please unmute yourself when you're ready, who wants to suggest a move for the pawn to move because he starts the game. Remember, it's a race. The pawn against the king. Is there someone who wants to unmute themselves? And
you can go to G2, G4, from G2 to G4.
Okay, So you can move that, Runel, by grabbing the pawn and just drag it. Yes, thanks a lot. And then we're going to move its impact squares, just so we're all looking at the same position. So you would suggest a double move. Why did you make the double move and not the single move? Because you had two options.
Because there's a race,
Yeah.
and otherwise the king can only move one square at a time. So if I want to get the first, I better take my two moves from the beginning, because I can't do it later on.
True. Okay, so now it's the king's turn to move. So the king has got 8 possible moves. But I need to make a move that takes me towards my purpose. And this is a very important thing to realize in decision making when we teach our children to make decisions, is that you cannot make healthy decisions or good decisions if you don't have a clear purpose. Often, when people are just making moves because it's their turn, or they just do something because they have to do it, they're not making healthy decisions. So we're going to, in this case, the king's decision is clear. I'm going to eliminate. I'm not even going to consider these options that I have. I'm not considering them, because they don't take me in the right direction. I need to try and stop this pawn before it reaches the orange square. So I'm going to only really consider one move. That is my best one. I'm not considering the others. So this is also a tool that we teach as our children when we teach them about healthy decision making, is to eliminate the decisions that doesn't take you to your clear purpose, and then to go for the most critical, the most active move that you can make to help your king. And there was only really one move. It was taking the king to c5 to try and keep up with this pawn. I have to be very, very active. All right, now it's the pawn's move again. Does someone wants to move the pawn? This is a very simple race. The pawn only has one option. There's only one possible move, so that's not a very complex decision making. So the pawn just goes. Is there anyone who wants to make the move for us? Please grab the pawn with your mouse and just
I
move
will
it.
carry
There.
on making the move.
Okay, thanks, Renelle. There goes the pawn. It's really getting forward, and I've got all those moves around me, but I'm actively going on the diagonal forward to try and capture the pawn, because the pawn is only 3 moves away from winning. I don't have time to make a slow move. I must move my most active move as a king. Okay, pawn, it's your turn to go. And there he goes. There he goes. And I actually think it's very, very difficult for this king to catch up. But I'm running. Now it's the pawn's turn. And let's see. And the king now, to try and capture the pawn, has got only one move to go towards the pawn, because the king cannot go where the red square is. That's against the rules of the game. You may never put your king where it moves itself into danger. That is against the rules. And of course, any game that you play also have rules. That's important to follow. So this king is making a very purposeful move there. And in this specific, very simple game, of course, he just actually couldn't catch the pawn. The pawn got onto the orange square with the next move. And for this little example game, we said if it reaches the orange square, then it wins. So in this case, this game was won by the pawn. So I'm quickly going to put it back here where we were. Let us see. We could have visualized it without moving it, because it was a very simple game. How many moves does the pawn need? It makes a double move. Then it only needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves to get to the other side. And the king, if it makes its best, most active move, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves also. So both of these pieces actually needed 5 moves to get to the orange square if they made their best moves. So even before we made the moves, we could have visualized that whoever moves first in this position has got the winning advantage. And if the pawn doesn't make the double move in the beginning, if it makes a slow move, it would cost him the game later. So it's very important when we make moves in this mini game. We're just illustrating the concept of making active moves. Think about my decision making. What will be the results of it later? Not only thinking of now, but where will it go to? It's a very important part of serving the purpose in purpose design thinking and decision making. All right, so now I'd like you to introduce you to a little bit more complex game. Here it is. We're going to play it. The king is much closer now. And this time the king has to actually stop both pawns. Because if any one of the two pawns reach the other side or reach the orange square, it wins. So the king now has to be very active to try and stop both pawns. So the king has got two challenges to address at the same time. All right. So we're going to start with the pawn first. Anyone who wants to suggest a pawn move? Who wants to make a move? You're welcome to unmute yourself and discuss with us your purpose. I'll move the king and I'll explain it. And you can move the pawns. Any pawn. What do you think?
The G pawn, I think, 2 moves ahead.
Go for it.
As quickly as possible.
Go for it, Fran. Go for it. There he goes. And I'm just moving the color squares just because it helps us to all look at the same position. These are tools that we use in our mini games when we work with young children, and they love it. And we make sure that they understand the position very well. Okay, why did you decide on that one, Fran?
Because if the one on the E line moved to, the king would take it.
Yeah. So that would be a risky move, because you immediately will actually lose one of the 2 pawns, and you've got 2 opportunities here. You've got 2 opportunities to win, and that one has got a better chance, ne? So okay, now it's my king, and I'm looking at all the squares right around it to go, and obviously I'm not going to consider these ones. It's too passive. They don't take me towards my challenges. They're too passive. I'm not even going to consider them. I want to actively engage with my challenges and try and stop both pawns. So there's only really one good move for me. So I'm eliminating all the blue ones. I'm just showing it to you how elimination is part of decision making. And to be able to eliminate what I don't want to do, that brings me closer to what the best move is. I need to have a clear purpose in mind. So I'm going to come here with my king. And this move, I feel, is taking me very actively towards the G pawn. And it's also keeping an eye on the E pawn. So I think I'm covering both challenges with that move. All right. Now, you can go. Who wants to move? So the king is trying to manage his risks, and he's looking at the situation, and is trying to keep both challenges under wraps.
Pawn to D5.
Okay, there goes the pawn. This is now obviously white is putting his money on the G pawn, and that G pawn is only 3 moves away from winning. So me being the king, I'll have to be very, very careful here in this position, because I have to look at the 2 risks that I have to address. The one that's the biggest risk for the king is the G pawn now. So this move would be the best move for the king, isn't it? It's the only good move, actually, because it's not only attacking the pawn, but also attacking the square that the pawn is looking at. Next move. So this move is very effectively managing the prioritized risk, isn't it? If I have to look at the 2 pawns, the G pawn is my biggest risk, and I have to manage that one. And that move is the only move that I can see that can actually manage both risks. Both attack the pawn and the square where it's going to move next. So that move actually is a very good move. All right, white to move. What is white going to do?
Well, the king can just take the one on the G file if it moved up or where it is right now. So that one is almost lost. But if you move the E file one, the 2 squares, it can move 2 squares, then the king is in the red block.
Yeah, then the king is in check. It's on danger, ne? So you attack the king, and you take your pawn forward, the other pawn. So you create another risk. Yeah.
But the king can still take the other one as well.
Well,
so I don't know.
You decide.
I think you must go for it, Fran. You can
let's boil the
king a little bit. You must distract him. Maybe he'll fall for your trap.
Good. Okay, so the other pawn has moved up, and it brings himself closer to the other side of the board. Now, actually, this king is in check, is under attack from the E pawn, but the king has got 2 pawns of which he can choose which one to take. He can take both of them. And he has to make a very important decision, because he has to decide which of the 2 risks he has to prioritize. And obviously, the pawn that is further ahead is the most critical risk for this king, isn't it? To look at. But I want to say something about this. If the king isn't very clever and he just wants to gobble everything that he sees, and he decides to gobble the pawn that attacks it, because he's just greedy, he's not thinking well, he's just taking the first thing, then
he will be blind.
He is actually moving out of reach from stopping the other challenge, from stopping the other side, and that will cost him the game. So I just want to say something about this, because this is something about chess that I really like. It teaches our children also not to be greedy and just grab everything that they can. It teaches them to think about what would be the consequences, what would happen later, what is the longer game benefit for me, what is the bigger picture. And also to prioritize risks. Which risk is more critical than the other? And if the king is not over enthusiastic and just grabs the first one that he sees, but think about it carefully, he will definitely capture the G pawn, isn't it? Because that is the bigger risk in the longer run. That is the bigger picture. It's keeping the purpose in mind of the game. So I'm going there. All right. Now it's the pawn to move. Who wants to play for white? But it was
can only move up.
Can only move up. It was very easy for the king to go wrong, ne? There were 8 possible moves. And there were 2 moves in which to capture. Now, the king can make 2 moves to attack the existing pawn. He can either move to f4 or he can move to f5. Or, of course, he can move to any of the other pawns on g and h, which does not take him towards his purpose. So if he's not clear on his purpose, he can make a move there to the G file or to the H file. These are all legal moves, but it doesn't take the king towards his clear purpose. It doesn't analyze the situation fully. It's just looking at the first possible move it can make. If it takes time to analyze the situation, it will see there's really only two moves that the king can make that will be attacking the challenge, the pawn. And only one of them is a good move that will not only attack only the pawn, but also the next move. Thinking ahead of consequence. Who wants to make that move? Is there anyone in our team that just want to make the move for the king that you think are the winning move of those two moves?
That one.
Of course, yes. That is the winning move. If the king made this move,
Be behind.
then the pawn runs and the king cannot catch it. Look, the pawn runs one move at a time and the king runs one move at a time. And the pawn goes and the king cannot catch it because the king is behind and he didn't look at the consequences sufficiently. So in this position, one move loses, one move wins, and there's only one square between them. You really have to take your time, not be impulsive, make your first move, be greedy, analyze the situation. Think, what will happen after I make my move? And that is healthy decision making. Well done. I can't remember who made this move, but that's a winning move and I'm going. I'll still be trying because the game is not over until we reaches the other side. It's not over. The king can still make a mistake. I'm still trying. What would you move if you're the king?
You can only move up one. The king.
It's now the king's turn to move.
Well, just take the pawn.
We'll take the pawn and eliminate the dangers and win the game. So we play many of these games. So I'm just sharing quickly with you and then I'm finished. Another game to bring more complexity would be mini games like these. So we've got a whole set of games where it's actually about managing risk, thinking ahead, making healthy decisions, and not be greedy, but keep the long-term game. So thank you, Karien. I hope this was helpful.
Can I just ask, if you look at all the skills that I put on the slide there, who can tell me which of those skills came to mind as Marisa was going through the game?
All of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing, hey? Small little game and actually addressing so many skills, many more. Very interesting.
Can I add one thing here, Karien, before I hand back to you? In our mini chess program where we do weekly classes, we've got a lot of different games that we play with the children. They think they're just playing, but we're building neural pathways and develop these skills that children will use for the rest of their lives.
And you need all those skills to be a successful entrepreneur. You have to look at your situation, analyze it. You have to do critical thinking, managing risk all the time. All those things are so important. That's great. The next theme I would like to discuss is failure. Just want to put on next slide. Oh, you got presenter. That's why sorry, I was a little bit confused. Okay, cool. Failure. Yep. Successful entrepreneurs have an interesting relationship actually with failure. In most cases, they view failure as an essential part of success and not as something that's permanent or lasting. Entrepreneurs want to fail fast so they can learn and pivot. Practice is controlled failure, and failure helps you to recognize the areas where you need to evolve. So failure is important. Your mindset about failure is very important to be a successful entrepreneur. Michael Jordan, he actually missed 9,000 shots in his career. 26 times it was the game-winning shot that he missed. Imagine if he gave up. And today, after hard work and not giving up, perseverance, a good relationship with failure, he's actually such a legend of the game. If you look at Thomas Edison, I love this quote of his. I have not failed. I just found 10,000 ways that it won't work. If that is your mindset, you will be very successful. You will not give up quickly. How do you teach kids to have a good relationship with failure? The first idea I have is to tell your children of your, stories of your own failures and your own mistakes. We never tell them the mistakes that we made, on our life journey. And I think it's very important to discuss those with your kids. Tell them how you failed, when and why, and how you could grow after failing. I think it's very, very important. The next one is a hard one. For me, especially with my first child. The second one, the little busybody, came a little bit more naturally. Don't protect your kids from low risk consequences. For example, if they didn't study for a test and they failed, don't defend them, don't blame it on the teacher. They need to deal with the outcome of their choices that they made. Also teach your kids that negative emotions like disappointment is a normal part of failure. But what is most important is your self-language after failure. What do you say to yourself? What do you teach your child to say to himself after failure? After losing a chess match, what do you say to yourself? Did you say to yourself, I'm not good enough? I never want to play again. My opponent cheated. Or do you say to yourself, wow, my opponent checkmated me only 2 moves before I could checkmate him. That was so close. I am going to go home, replay this game, and see if I could checkmate him sooner in the game. He was managing his risk better. He saw an opportunity. I missed the opportunity. And you will have more positive self-language instead of just being negative and saying things to yourself that is not the truth. If you, after doing a speech, you only got 70%, you forgot some of your words, do you say to yourself, I knew this would happen. The people in the back distracted me. Or will you say to yourself, next time I'm going to use more pictures on my cue cards to remind me of my words. If you can change this mindset in your child to have a positive and the upbuilding self-language, it's going to make such a big difference for them, not only to be an entrepreneur or to be successful in the 21st century, but as a person, to be a happier person. It's very important that you tell yourself what really happened and not things that you think happened or that you presumed happened. Very, very important skill to teach kids. Sports is also a good tool to teach kids about failure and lots of other things, social skills, teamwork, all those kind of things. I strongly believe that children need to enroll in sports. In our house, You have to do 2 sports. You can choose which ones, but there's no choice for you. You have to do sports. In Afrikaans, there's a saying, 'n gesonde liggaam huis is 'n gesonde gees. I strongly believe in that, and my kids know that they have to do sports. Playing games as a family at home. There's lots of entrepreneurial games out on the market these days. Our go-to game is Monopoly. And when you play Monopoly with your family and your kids, sometimes they will make some bad trades, and don't rescue them. Let them play the game out, seeing the consequences of those bad trades. Some other skills that or ideas that you can use to wake up the entrepreneurial spirit in your child. Teaching them about money. I don't pay my kids for teamwork like unpacking the dishwasher and making beds, things like that. I say to them that is part of being a team and a family. Those things you have to do just for life. But if they want to earn money, they must go and have a look around the house, what they can do to make money, and they must come and negotiate with us. So my kids have a calendar like this, and they it's normally on weekends that they feel like doing something for money. So they will put on the calendar what they want to do, and they will negotiate the price with us, and that is how they earn money. If you just give kids an allowance to do teamwork things like, helping out around the house, you are teaching them to become employees. If you teach them to look for opportunities around the house to make money, you're teaching them to look for opportunities. It's a very important entrepreneurial skill to go out and to find opportunities where you can make money or where you can build a business. And it also teaches them to negotiate, which is also a very good skill for an entrepreneur to have, is the ability to negotiate well. So that is what we do, at home for the money situation. I must warn you, this works out a little bit more expensive than just giving an allowance every month. But I see it as enrolling them in the entrepreneurial school. So even if it costs me more money, I see it as an extramural activity where I actually teach them, these skills. Don't say things like money doesn't grow on trees, or we'll never be able to afford this or that. Then you are teaching them that money is actually unattainable. I just want to put my screen back on. You're teaching them that money is unattainable, and you teach them limits. Rather say things like, let's think of ways to make extra money to buy A or B. Brainstorm together with your child and teach them things like a mind map to think of some ideas how they can make money. Tell your children inspirational stories about people in your community that persevered and made a success. We have lots of stories like that in New Zealand, immigrants that we've met. Share those stories with them. The owner of the corner shop that came to the country with just a bag of clothes, and after a lot of hard work and never giving up, he was able to support his family and make a beautiful life for himself. We can tell them stories about Martha Stewart that started her business in the basement. I mean, Marisa, you started your business in your garage, and now your business is in all continents and in so many countries all over the world. That is what we must tell our children, people around us that are very great examples of successful entrepreneurs. Also, something that I strongly believe in is to show kids what bad service looks like. Talk about it and let them tell you after they, you've experienced bad service somewhere, what they would have done differently to give better service. Very good for an entrepreneur to know what good and bad service looks like. One night a week, instead of reading them a story, let them tell you a story, give them a few items, and let them make up a story about those items. That teaches kids visualization. It triggers the imagination. I also tell stories sometimes of items that they give me, and then afterwards I'll say to them, what did you imagine? What kind of car did you imagine? What was the brand of the car? What was the color of the car? Things like that. It also, teaches them to visualize. Visualization is such an important part of a successful entrepreneurship, and it's a muscle that you can actually exercise in someone. Like going to the gym to get bigger biceps, you can exercise your visualization skills. And a lot of adults, they don't have the ability to visualize. So that's really something that you can help your kids with. I think time-wise, I'm going to end off just this slide with a few more skills that you can think about. And there's lots of books on the market about entrepreneurship. This one is absolutely my favorite. It's got a lot of interviews with entrepreneurs, and 90% of the entrepreneurs in this book actually had something in common. They had someone that believed in them. And more often than not, it was their mom. So this was actually, that came out in this book was so inspirational to me. We have to believe in our kids, and we can really change their lives if we don't live our life through them, but rather listen to them and realize what their dreams and aspirations are. This is also a good one. I can put the names on the chat for you if you're interested. This is more like really starting a little business as a family. It's also a very nice one, but definitely this one is a must-have if you're interested. I will write the author's name in the public chat for you now, and definitely worth it to get that one if you are interested. So I'm just also going to put the slide on if you want to go and have a look on the MiniChess website, minichess.co.za. I also have a website in New Zealand, my website, that you can have a look at. On the minichess.co.za website, you can also register for the monthly newsletter, and you can see all sorts of information on there. You can also book a free demo lesson that you can do with your child and see what it's like. And yes, so I'm going to give it back to Marisa. But from my side, thank you very much for listening to my voice for about something that is so close to my heart. And I hope I could plant the seed tonight for you to just look at things a little bit, in a different way. And good luck, to raising entrepreneurs. It's very, it's a big adventure. Let me say that. Thank you very much.
You are now unmuted.
Thank you very much, Karien. We've run out of time. I just want to say this is so inspiring. I'm no longer the mom of a 21st century child, but I'm the grandmom of a 21st century child, and I am definitely going to do these things. I think it's possible for every one of us to empower our children with these critically very important skills. Thank you, Karien. It was a wonderful session. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and most of all, I learned that it's possible for me to plant those seeds that will help my grandson and enable him for a fast-changing new world and entrepreneurial future. I want to invite everyone. We're going to print, we're going to also make a copy of the public chat, and we have a copy of we recorded the session, and if you want to share it with someone, just contact us at minichess.co.za. We will be able to share it with you, and you can share it with your communities and others you want to you think that can benefit from it. So yes, visit us on our MiniChess website for more information, and we'd like to take hands with you if you need to a demo lesson or just a chat or encouraging us. We've got the series, 21st Century series of webinars every second Thursday evening from 6:30 to 8:30, 6:30 to 7:30. And the next one in 2 weeks' time will be about the agile mind. And it's going to be done by our MindCo franchisee, Almin Solms. Very important in the time we live in, agility. Make a mark in your diary, and then we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. But the next session after that, 2 weeks later, will be also presented by Karien and myself, and it's about the importance of activating the internal senses in your young child's development forward. Make a booking. We'd love to take hands with 21st century people to empower our people in the time of smart machines. Thank you for your time.